Hi guys, I am here with you guys a Bible story. As always, we're going to start off with our Bible song. If you guys don't remember it, then you'll get to learn it with us today. So, it's just a little simple song that we like to sing before we do our Bible story. Just to have you guys a new song to learn. And it's really easy, really simple. And here we go. The Bible, yes, that's the book for me. I stand up on the Word of God, the Bible. Again, the Bible, yes, that's the book for me. I stand up on the Word of God, the Bible. That's all there is to it. And you can sing it as many times as you want. We just like to sing that before we do our story. Now we're going to get into our story for today, which is A Lion and a Riddle. And as always, we will start off with the Bible verse that this story is going to be talking about, and that is in the book of the Bible called Judges, and it is chapter 14, verse 14. So, let's begin the story. After the time of Gideon, one of the enemies who conquered the Israelites when they sinned was the Philistines, a strong nation that lived near the Great Sea. For 40 years the Israelites served the Philistines, and the Lord sent no one to save them. Finally, an angel appeared to an Israelite woman and told her that she was going to have a son who would rescue God's people from the Philistines. This boy was to be specially given to God from the time he was born. The woman was not to eat any unclean thing or drink any wine, and the little baby was never to have his hair cut, for he would be a Nazirite. To the Israelites, a Nazirite was one who let their hair grow and drank no wine, to show that he belonged to God. The woman hurried to tell her husband, Manoah, and the wonderful news, but he could hardly believe it. It was too good to be true. He prayed that God would send the angel again, so they would be sure to understand how they were to treat their special son. This time the angel appeared to Manoah and his wife while they were out in the fields. Manoah had many questions to ask the angel, but the angel only repeated the same message he told the woman before. Manoah was so grateful that he offered a sacrifice to God there. When the flame from the altar rose, the angel ascended to heaven in the fire. In time, the promised son came, and the happy parents named him Samson. They took good care of him and saw that he never ate anything unclean and that his hair was never cut. As Samson grew up, his long hair was not the only strange thing people began to notice about him. He was a very strong boy and could do things no one his age or even those older could do. But sometimes it seemed that Samson was not serious enough, for he would use his strength just to show off. When Samson was old enough to get married, he came to his mother and father and told them that he had seen a Philistine woman in the town of Timnah, and he wanted to be his wife. Manoah and his wife were very disappointed that Samson had chosen a Philistine instead of one of the Israelite girls. They could not know, of course, that God was using this way for Samson to bring much harm to the Philistines. Finally, however, they made a trip with Samson down to Timnah to see about the marriage. During the journey, Samson and his parents became separated. Perhaps Samson wandered off alone, away from the road, to explore the wilderness. While he was alone, a lion leaped out at him, ready to attack. In a second, Samson caught the lion and killed him with his bare hands, leaving him in many pieces on the ground. But he never told his parents or anyone ever about this. Plans for the marriage were made, and Samson and his family went back home. Then, at the time planned, he returned to Timnath for the wedding. On the trip he thought again of the lion he had killed, and he wandered into the brush to look for what was left of it. He found that the body of the lion had been eaten by wild beasts and birds, and only its bones were left. But then he noticed that among the bones some bees had made a honeycomb and left some honey in it. He reached into the honeycomb and took some of the honey to eat. It tasted good to him as he walked along on his long journey. After the wedding, it was the custom in those days for there to be a long wedding feast or celebration. At Samson's wedding, the celebration lasted a whole week. During that time, Samson and the other young men entertained themselves with riddles and guessing games. Samson thought, and then he said, "I will give you a riddle. If you can answer it within 7 days, I will give you each a new suit of clothes. But if you cannot answer it, you must give me 30 suits of clothes." "Fine," his companions declared. "Now tell us your riddle." So he said, "Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet." For 3 days the men puzzled over Samson's riddle, but they could not find the right answer. Finally they came to Samson's bride and told her, "Get Samson to tell you the answer to his riddle. If you cannot find out for us, we will burn your family's house." So Samson's new wife begged and pleaded with him to tell her the answer to his riddle. Finally she began crying and said, "If you really loved me, you would tell me the answer." She bothered him so much about it that he finally gave in and told her about the lion he had killed and the honey that he found among its bones. Naturally, she gave the answer then to the other men. On the last day of the feast, just as it was ending, the men came confidently to Samson. With a smile they said, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" Samson knew immediately where they had gotten the answer from his wife. He was so angry that he went right out and killed the first 30 Philistines he found and used their clothes to pay his bet. But this was only the beginning of Samson's trouble with the Philistines. The Lord had given him his strength to save his people from the Philistines, not with an army, but with his might alone. Yep, Samson's going to destroy a lot of people all on his own because God made him so strong and so brave. He's a very special boy. Let's see, let me ask you guys a couple questions. How was Samson different from the other boys? Well, Samson was a Nazirite, which means he couldn't cut his hair. He had to let his hair grow, and he couldn't eat anything unclean. And that's what the angel told his parents that they had to do, too, in order for him, because he was chosen by God to do a special work. So God didn't want him to have his hair ever cut, and he didn't want him to ever eat anything unclean. Let's see. How did the Philistines find out the answer to Samson's riddle? They found out the answer to Samson's riddle because they told Samson's wife if she did not get the answer from Samson and tell them what it was, they would burn her family's house to the ground. So his wife, Samson's wife, went to him crying, pleading with him, and just crying, and if you really loved me, you would tell me what the answer is. So Samson finally gave in and told her what the answer was, and she went back and told the men, and then they was able to tell Samson what the riddle meant, because they had cheated, of course. So those are the questions I'm going to ask you guys today. So that was our story, A Lion and a Riddle. I hope you guys enjoyed today's story, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. Bye guys. God bless.